Members of the Green Party of England and Wales will this summer be voting to elect new members of their leadership team. Now, the contest for the leadership of the party, which has pitted Zach Polansky against the job share team of Adrian Ramsey and Ellie Chowns, has attracted a lot of attention from the membership and the wider media. Meanwhile, there's a deputy leadership contest going on. There are no fewer than 9 candidates in that election, but it hasn't quite had the same amount of attention. That's why Bright Green is trying to interview each of the candidates, and today I was joined by one of them, Chas Warlow. Before we get into the conversation, I have one thing to ask of you, which is that you scroll down right now and hit subscribe. I hope you enjoy the interview. So I'm absolutely delighted this evening to be joined by Chas Warlow, one of the 9 candidates for the deputy leadership of the Green Party of England and Wales. Chas, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty good. Yeah, pretty good.
Good to hear. Well, I hope by the end of this you'll also be feeling pretty good. So to kick things off, hopefully quite straightforwardly, why do you think that you're best placed to be the next deputy leader of the Green Party?
I think I've got a good amount of experience, both as working in the renewable sector and in community grassroots projects and organizations, community energy projects in particular. So I've got a bit of practical know-how as well as obviously a commitment to the core values of the Green Party and of the Green movement in general. I've been a councillor for the last 3 years, so I've been kind of at the front end of trying to get Green Party policy and our agenda, on pushing that through in a local context. In general, I feel that I have a very balanced perspective. I can see both sides of arguments. I feel like I'm a good person to hold the various parts of the party together, to keep the integrity of the party, to make sure we stay close to our roots while not ignoring the need to keep on pushing really hard to get our message across.
So I'll pick up some of those bits and pieces later on. But the next question I wanted to put to you is, what do you want to change about the Green Party?
I want to change well, I want us to be electable and elected. I guess that's the big challenge that we're all facing, and I'm sure the other candidates will have said the same thing. How do we get ourselves into the media and into the limelight? I think one of the key things for me that I've realized as I've been working on this campaign is that a lot of Green Party ideas are not already in the public discourse very much. So, for instance, universal basic income is an up and coming idea, but it's still not really broken through into mainstream public discourse. And also, our economic policy or economic philosophy is not yet broken through into the mainstream. We don't really hear these arguments. Now, you get someone like Gary Stevenson talking about inequality and wealth tax, and that's the kind of kickstart of that whole subject in the public domain, so that people can then start talking about it. We need to be able to do that kind of thing effectively with a lot of our other policies that people don't even know about.
So how then do you think that you'd be able to start to mainstream some of those sort of policy areas?
I think that I've got, the ability to communicate those kind of ideas pretty well and succinctly. But obviously, it can't just be on one person. There's got to be a communications strategy that allows us to get into the mainstream, and that is something that needs to be discussed and pushed forward at executive and throughout the levels of the Green Party. So it's not an easy subject, this one.
What then would that communication strategy look like in terms of how would you like to see the party? And you said that it's an executive issue. So if you were elected deputy leader, you'd be a member of the Green Party executive. What does that strategy look like in terms of how you'd begin to mainstream those ideas?
I think we have to start working with experts in the field. So there are a number of academics who are talking about things like modern monetary theory or positive money, and we have to be able to encourage them to become more mainstream than they already are, and also via their own platforms and say, you know, we support these ideas. This is our economic philosophy as well, because I think that's a really key part of what we need to put across as a party. We're quite often sidelined in that debate. The whole economics debate seems to happen without any kind of real alternative viewpoint, and people don't really know what we're standing for. So that part of it, but I don't have any easy answers, to be honest with you.
And so I'll go back to one of the things that you talked about earlier. You said that you wanted the Greens to be more electable. And we're having this conversation after, last year's general election where the Greens went from 1 to 4 parliamentary seats. There's another general election coming up at some point within the next 4 years. How many seats do you think the Greens can and should be targeting at that next general election?
That's a great question. I can't give a figure because I think things can change very quickly. I mean, at the moment, I think we started targeting in every region. So probably about 20 target seats have been kind of identified as far as I know. I'm not totally sure about that. But obviously we need to target more because we want to be a bigger force in UK politics. So even if we did get to say 20 or 30 MPs, which is a big step change in itself, that's still not even, that's not as many as the Lib Dems. So I think we need to be more ambitious. Obviously that depends on our own resources, on our membership. Yeah, none of these questions are easy. And I don't have any simple answers for them either.
I'm glad that you don't think my questions are easy. That's a ringing endorsement of the ones that I'm putting to you. My follow up to that, I guess, then is you're talking there about 20 plus seats the Greens could be targeting. Now, while that's quite small in terms of the overall makeup of the House of Commons, it would be a significant increase in the representation for the Greens if that were to be achieved. And at the moment, the Greens' sort of electoral strategy is to throw the kitchen sink at a very small number of parliamentary seats or indeed council seats, and sort of put all of the party's resources into a small number of areas in order to maximise the chances of winning in those. Obviously, the wider you expand that out, the more thinly your resources get spread. So I guess the question I wanted to put to you is, how would you see the party scaling up its electoral operation in order to deliver the kind of number of seats that you're talking about winning there?
Well, we need to get more members and we need to get a bigger war chest. I mean, that's the basic need here. And without those two elements, then you won't have people on the ground and you won't have the resources to do it. So there's a big need for expanding our membership. And of course, that comes back to telling people what we stand for, again, getting more media coverage. The two things feed into each other that would be the virtuous circle, and then building on that. So yeah, it's I guess we have to be ambitious without being without spreading our resources too thin. But at the same time, if we don't go for the ambitious targets, then I think we'll just be selling ourselves short.
So the next question that I wanted to put to you was about what the party's electoral coalition looks like. So all parties going into elections know the types of voters, the demographics, the groups that they're seeking to mobilise to get them over the line in a number of constituencies. What do you think the Greens electoral coalition should look like when trying to win, say, 20 plus seats the next election?
Well, in general terms, we should be the party that looks like it's a home for everybody, really, anybody. I suppose, apart from the super wealthy who are definitely not going to vote for us. But in general, we should have a broad coalition of people who are willing to vote for the Green Party. I think in more specific terms, young people, really, they should be voting for us. They shouldn't even be thinking about voting for anyone else. So, anybody from now 16 up to the age of 30, I guess, or even 35, you would say would be a target and quite a strong target for us. But also there are people in rural constituencies who are fed up of the other parties and who are resonating. That's why we have two two rural constituencies where we have MPs. So, for me, it's still, I would like to see us aim at a broad coalition of target voters, because I think if we start focusing down too narrowly, then we will not make it over the line. I know that in urban constituencies, it's much easier to target younger professionals, etc. And then looking at the whole diversity of urban constituencies, then obviously we should be targeting all of the minorities and other people who are looking to vote for a party that stands for them, because we are the party that stands for those people. And also disabled people, we also stand up for them as well. So that's in essence my answer to that question.
I'm very glad that I just about snuck in the upper end of your young people definition there. So
Oh,
feeling
right.
very
I'm
flattered by
sorry,
that.
it sounds a bit patronizing in a way, but I am a bit older, I suppose, than a lot of the other candidates. So I kind of start to think, oh, what does young people? Well, young, they that level, that range can expand.
Not patronising at all. I'm very grateful for the compliment. I've got one sort of final question for you on sort of electoral strategy stuff before I move on to some other bits and pieces. So we're having this conversation at a time when it's looking increasingly likely that in the next general election there will be a new political party of the left that it seems like will be involving some of the independent MPs, like, for example, Jeremy Corbyn, Zara
Mm.
Sultana, and others. Now, the kinds of coalition that you talked about there in terms of the voters that the Greens would be appealing to in the next general election looks pretty similar to what you'd expect that political project to be appealing to. So how
Mm.
do you think the Greens should be responding to the launch of any new left-wing party?
I think we should be saying that we are your natural home. Like I said earlier, another party of a kind of breakaway party from the Labour Party is, I guess yeah, it is really frustrating to see this happening. I think that our vision is obviously more global in both terms. Like we're facing global crises, so we talk about the global element of that, but also a bigger holistic picture, even in the national framework. So we're talking about environments, society, and economics as well, just to put it in very, very sort of succinct form. I don't know what this new party will be talking about. I don't know if they will have that same kind of vision. They might say they do, but we know as the Green Party, as Greens, that we have that vision. It's kind of what our entire party is built on. It's our integrity. So again, we just have to keep on talking about that and say that any other variation will just simply split the progressive left vote, and you'll be left with Reform or whoever might sneak in there. I know that's not a great situation to be in, but that's first past the post for you. We end up having to face these situations, every single first past the post election that there is, and perhaps we just have to use that to our advantage this time. Say, well, your kind of little splinter group off the Labour Party is just going to cause problems. So let's focus on a party that has depth, credibility, longevity.
So I guess the follow up to that really is that the small amount of opinion polling that we've seen on this potential new party
Mm.
suggests that the most likely voters to back such a party are current Green voters, and that they could win around 10% of the vote and eat into a substantial amount of the Green vote. Do you think it's sufficient to just basically make the case to the public that the Greens are the best placed party to win in a certain number of constituencies over this party? Or do you think that there needs to be a more strategic question about how to engage with that, particularly given that you'd expect that that party would probably be focusing quite a lot of its energies into a lot of the same seats that the Greens
Mm.
would be, given the demographic makeup of them?
Well, I think it's both, isn't it? You have to have both a strategy to counter their appeal, and also you have to be putting forward your own arguments. And um, yes, you're right. They are going to be targeting up if they last. I don't even know whether this party has any kind of substantial backing. Yeah, we don't really know what's going to happen next. Is there any chance that there might be a need for some sort of electoral pact with them if they do look as if they're gaining ground? I don't know. We don't really know, because there's another probably 3 years at least to go before a general election. Let's say, you know, that's the most feasible, uh, logical situation. But yeah, we certainly have to have a strategy to look at how they might be appealing to the same demographic that we're appealing to. It's Yeah, I guess we just need to be more organized than them, more committed.
So I'm going to move on now to a what I'm calling the sort of quickfire section of these interviews. And for this series of questions, I'm going to ask you, if possible, to answer with a single word of yes or no to each of the questions.
Mm.
Now, I know that you'll probably want to answer with more words than that, and I'll give you time at the end of the section if there's anything you want to expand on to do so. But I'm trying to keep people super disciplined, and if you
All right.
can, just answer with one word. So my first question for you is: should the UK remain a member of NATO?
Yes.
Is overpopulation a significant issue that needs to be tackled when addressing the climate emergency?
That's mm, very difficult to answer yes or no to. It's a yes and no. I'll say yes just to say something.
Excellent. Thank you for being disciplined. Um, should HS2 be completed in full?
Depends what you mean by in full.
So I guess should the plans for a northern leg of HS2 plus the route from London to Birmingham?
Well, I think the northern leg should be done. I'm not sure about the one from London to Birmingham. So I kind of half a yes.
That's allowed. Does nuclear power have a role in a sustainable energy system?
Mm, does it have a role? Well, um, limited role for a short period of time, yes.
They're intentionally difficult, so I'm not surprised that you're struggling to give me yeses and nos, but very well behaved thus far for the most part. Should the UK rejoin the EU?
Yes,
Should people who publicly oppose the Green Party's position on trans rights be allowed to remain a member of the party?
yes.
And finally, is ecological sustainability possible under capitalism?
Mm, I think it is, yes. But
That's always the one that gets the
I'm
longest
very,
the longest pause.
I'm very split on that, because for obvious reasons. Um, yeah, it has to be a very, very well managed capitalism.
And so now's your chance. If there's any of those that you want to give a bit more depth on, it's open to you.
Like, I could give more depth on all of them. I mean, there's the one about nuclear power, which I don't think long term has a place, unless it's fusion, which is so, still very theoretical, or at least at a very early stage, and we don't know that much about it. But otherwise, I think the downsides of nuclear outweigh the upsides. So yeah, I wouldn't support it in the long term energy strategy. Um, the question about supporting about trans rights. I mean, I support the Green Party position on trans rights, but I also support the right of people to be in the party who might disagree. with those statements. When you said, was they publicly disagree?
Publicly oppose. I guess the thrust of the question really is around, I guess, the tension which you've identified there, which is, the party is democratic and members are entitled to put forward proposals on policy, and to seek to change it and to disagree with it. And everyone from the leaders down are able to do that.
Mm,
The reason that I think this is a particularly contentious issue is firstly because it's been a major topic of debate within the party over the last few years, but also because whereas, say for example, on some other issues that are of debate within the Green Party, like for example HS2, this is one that deals with sort of questions of fundamental rights, and there are some members who would argue that by opposing that policy, it's inherently discriminatory to do so. And so I guess the question is trying to draw out the tension there between the questions around members, who wish to make a case for a different
mm.
public policy, and other members who feel that their rights are being undermined or threatened.
Yeah, I would still support people's right to have an opposing opinion, whether or not it's in the best interests of the party for them to be speaking out publicly about it without any kind of attempt to, to have that discussion mediated. I'm not sure, but I think disciplinary procedures are, like the last resort. I think if you want to have reasonable debate in a party, you have to be really sure of what you're doing when you bring into place disciplinary procedures. And we've seen Green Party lose a court case, or partially lose a court case, and spend a lot of money on trying to defend its own position, which personally, I don't know, was that worth it?
Any other of those that you want to go into any more detail on?
Um, well, I kind of did already with my answer on HS2, because I think the northern leg and generally public transport links in the north of England are not good enough, and they need massive improvement. So yes, I agree with doing that in the north, but I don't see the point of HS2 in its southern leg, because it doesn't seem to have the advantage. It doesn't seem to create much benefit, but it does obviously have a lot of harm to the woodlands on the route.
So, for viewers who've seen these interviews before, you will know that I like to close them with some slightly less serious questions that often people tell me are the most difficult of them to answer. But we'll see how you get on, Chas. My
Okay.
first of them is that there have been 5 deputy leaders of the Green Party in its history. Who do you think's been the best?
That's a really, really unfair question.
If you thought that was unfair, there's a lot more coming your way that probably are more unfair. So.
The trouble is, I'm obviously aware of who is the deputy leader at the moment, and I think he probably has been the most effective deputy leader. He certainly put himself into the public eye and raised the profile of the party, and so I think he has been the best.
A ringing endorsement for Zach's time as deputy leader there.
Yeah.
My second question for you is possibly more unfair, probably almost definitely more unfair. So I assume, will be giving your first preference in the deputy leadership election to yourself. Who are you thinking of giving your second preference to?
Well, I'm thinking of. Well, I think that's also a difficult, almost impossible question, because I don't know all of the candidates. And I haven't really seen what their platforms are yet. And I'm hoping to make up my mind once once we've done the hustings. We've got several hustings coming up, and so I think once we've done those hustings, then I'll be in a better position.
Very diplomatically put. My next question for you is that there is, concurrent with the deputy leadership election, an election for the leadership of the party,
Hmm.
with Zach Polanski, the current deputy leader, up against Adrian Ramsey and Ellie Chowns, 2 Green MPs who are standing on a co-leadership ticket. Who do you want to win?
I I'm gonna be. It sounds like I'm ducking the question, but I honestly don't know yet who I'm going to support or who I'm going to vote for. So I think it would be, stupid of me to just blurt out one or the other. I honestly don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. And again, I want to see the hustings. I want to hear more from them, from both sets of candidates, to before I make up my mind.
That's entirely fair and reasonable. Maybe then you could give viewers a sense of what you think the strengths of each of the candidates are.
Well, with the sitting MPs, the strength is that they are sitting MPs, that they know their way around the corridors of power, and they work incredibly hard, and they have worked hard to become MPs as well. They've got a depth of knowledge and a certain credibility and gravitas about them. So I think that's their advantage. On the other hand, Zach is very dynamic as a personality, and he's shown that so far. He does have a good grasp of, well, from what I can gather anyway, it's a pretty good grasp of principles and policies. Not that the others don't, I'm sure they do as well. So he has, but I think he's got a general advantage, if there is an advantage, weighing it up, is that he has been prepared to put himself into the spotlight, and he's been very energetic about that, and has obviously got quite a few people supporting him in the party. But that's my kind of summary of the position.
What's your favourite Green Party policy?
What a question. My favourite. Oh, blimey. I think that's really difficult. That is. I don't know. No, I really don't know. That's really
I'll give you a moment to think about it. You know what the next question's going to be, though, which is, and maybe this one tends to come easier for people. What's your least favourite Green Party policy?
um, Again, I don't have a least favorite or a more favorite policy. I don't really have it. It's not.
I'll frame the question a different way then. So imagine you wake up tomorrow and unbeknownst to you, there was a general election and the Green Party has come to power and you have become Prime Minister. What's the first thing you change on day one of entering Downing Street?
The first thing I check, yeah, okay. So the first thing will be around energy and investing massively in renewable energy. So I guess that's my favorite. Good way of framing it. Thanks, Chris.
No worries. Unless you've got anything immediate that's popped to mind on your least favourite, then I'll move on to my
Yeah.
final question, which is how I always like to end these: is who in the Green Party inspires you the most?
I think there are lots of people who inspire me. So it's yeah, picking out the one person who inspires me the most. I think it's got to be. I guess it's got to be Caroline Lucas, really. I mean, I'm sure lots of people say that, but it, yeah, I think for what she managed to do in her, what was it, 14 years as an MP, and just the way she managed to handle herself and still does, and somehow managing to always provide the positive answer, even when under fire, or at least having to respond to a more kind of negative type of scenario. She's always managed to push forward the positive vision. So I think, yeah, I mean, I could name other people as well, because I think I've been inspired, by Sian Berry as well. I think she's very inspiring. Jenny Jones, Natalie Bennett. Yeah, I think they're all very inspiring people.
Like many others, you've been inspired by Caroline Lucas, and I'm sure many of our viewers feel the same. That's all my questions for you today.
Oh,
So, Charles, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
well, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Chas Warlow. Before you leave, make sure you click like on this video. Let us know what you thought in the comments. Share this video with your friends. And of course, make sure you hit subscribe.